Lesson 13, our first Ajax application. In this lesson, you will learn how to construct a complete and working Ajax application. The topics we will cover in Lesson 13 are constructing the Ajax application, the HTML document, adding JavaScript, and putting it all together. Our first application will be simple in function, merely returning and displaying the time as read from the server's internal clock. Nevertheless, it will involve all the basic steps required for any Ajax application. An HTML document forming the basis for the application, JavaScript routines to create an instance of the XML HTTP request object and construct and send asynchronous server calls, a simple server-side routine in PHP to configure and return the required information, a callback function to deal with the returned data and use it in the application. Let's get to it, starting with the HTML file that forms the foundation for our application. This listing shows the code for our HTML page. This is a simple HTML layout having only a title, subtitle, button, and div element, plus some style definitions. This figure shows what the HTML page looks like. We can now add our JavaScript routines to the HTML page. We'll do so by adding them inside a script container to the head section of the page. First, let's add our function to create our XML HTTP request object. It's now a simple matter to create our XML HTTP request object, which on this occasion we're going to call HTTP:. Now we need a function to construct our server request, define a callback function, and send the request to the server. This is the function that will be called from an event handler in the HTML page. Once again, we have added a parameter with a random value to the URL to avoid any cache problems. Our callback function is named useHTTPResponse and is called each time a change is detected in the value of HTTP's ready state property. Before explaining the operation of the callback function, we need to refer to the code of the simple PHP server routine tellTimeXML.php shown in here. This short program reports the server time using PHP's date function. The argument passed to this function defines how the elements of the date and time should be formatted. Here we've ignored the date-related elements completely and asked for the time to be returned as hours:minutes:seconds using the 24-hour clock. Our server script returns an XML file in the following format with XX:XX:XX replaced by the current server time. We will use the callback function to extract this time information and display it in the div container of the HTML page. Here is the code for the callback function useHTTPResponse. Here we have used the getElementByTagName method, this time to select the timeNow element of the XML data, which we have stored in a variable timeValue. In this case, we want to use the information to update the contents of an element in the HTML page. Note how the div container is defined in our HTML page. In addition to the class declaration, which is used in the style definitions to affect how the div element is displayed, we see that there is also defined an identity for the container with a value set to showTime. Currently, the div contains nothing. We want to update the content of this container to show the server time information stored in timeValue. We do so by selecting the page element using JavaScript's getElementById method. We'll then use the JavaScript inner HTML property to update the element's contents. Finally, we must decide how the server requests will be triggered. In this case, we shall slightly edit the HTML document to use the onClick event handler of the button object. This will correctly deal with the occasion when the getServerTime button is clicked. It does, however, leave the div element empty when we first load the page. To overcome this little problem, we can use the onLoad event handler of the page's body element. This event handler fires as soon as the body area of the page has finished loading. This example shows the complete client-side code for our Ajax application. When loading the page into the browser, we can see that the server time is displayed in the div container, indicating that the onLoad event handler for the body of the page has fired when the page has loaded. Note also that we have provided user feedback via this line, which executes on each change to the value ready state until the condition is satisfied. This line loads into the time display element an animated GIF with a rotating pattern, indicating that a server request is in progress as shown in this figure. Now, each time we click on the Get Server Time button, the time display is updated. This figure shows the completed application. In this chapter, we've constructed a simple yet complete Ajax application that does the following: creates an instance of the XML HTTP request object, reacts to JavaScript event handlers built into an HTML page, constructs and sends asynchronous server requests, parses XML received from the server using JavaScript DOM methods, provides user feedback that a request is in progress, and updates the displayed page with the received data. You can now test your knowledge in the quiz area, access the scripts we learned in the lab, or go through the lesson again. The choice is yours. Thank you for choosing Sam's Teach Yourself.